Now, who I believe Satan is from my studies. Satan, I believe, is what his name actually represents, what it actually says. Satan. It actually means to attack, to accuse. That's the literal breakdown of his name. It doesn't indicate that he was created before all things and then he fell. It doesn't call him a beautiful angel because I already explained where those scriptures they got that from, and it doesn't illustrate it that way. But one of the things to remember is that all throughout the Old Testament, there is not one place ever that you'll see him referenced to as he's the enemy. You don't see David say, oh, we got to fight against Satan. Never. You don't see the people of Israel, oh, Satan doing this. Never. The whole distinguishing factor where we get now Satan is the enemy starts when Yeshua comes along, because Yeshua's words were spirit, and his design was to bring us now into the eternal understanding, into the spiritual perspective of things, to bring us to our handling of things from the spiritual perspective, bringing us back into heavenly places as co-heirs with Messiah, rather than just working everything out on earth in a physical manner as a representation. Because even David, being king, was still living a representation of what God was going to do. But the enemies were still all the enemies around. The Philistines were the enemy. The Canaanites were the enemy. And this is why God physically had them go and kill these people, because it was making an illustration. It was an understanding of removing the erroneous, bad, filthy ways and taking the ground and building the right way. But it was done in a physical format. So you can see in Job, if Satan is an enemy of God, well, then why is God having tea with him? I like to say that. It says, you know, the sons of God presented themselves to God. That's a whole other thing we could talk about another time. But it says, and it doesn't call him even part of that. It doesn't say angels, by the way. It says the sons of God. It says B'nai Elohim. And it says, and Satan was there among them. It doesn't say he was one of them. He just was there among them. So God, when they're all presenting, doesn't say anything to anybody else, but he says, hey, what have you been doing? We're having a nice, cordial conversation here. And what does he say? Oh, I'm walking to and fro on the earth. Have you considered my servant Job? Hey, wait a minute, God. Come on. Why are you talking to Satan about Job? What's going on here? Come on, leave this guy. He's great. God's the one commending him. God's the one calling Job righteous. But he's bringing it up to this guy. And he said, well, of course he's this way. You protected him, shielded him. And now you see a process there that goes on. He says, oh, okay, you could touch what he has, but don't kill him. You're seeing a spiritual perspective of how God deals with us in certain ways and who he's using to carry it out. There's another scripture to talk about in the Old Testament where you could see the census that David takes. In Samuel, I think it's like 2 Samuel 24. It's around that area. It says that David wants to take a census, and it says, and the anger of God rose up against Israel and brought judgment. And you know the background to that. Well, the same exact event is described in Chronicles. I think it's First Chronicles. It's around that, like 21 or something like that. I got to double check the actual places, but it's there. And it talks about the same exact event, and it says, and David took a census of the people. Actually, it says, and Satan rose up against Israel and made David take a census of the people. So you see, putting those two passages together, you're seeing the same exact event, but it's calling it the anger of God and Satan. Now, the person who's truly open and wants to learn, the first thing they say in their head is, that's interesting. Why does it do that? The person who's closed goes, well, that must be. Assumption comes in right away because it's got to protect the way you want to see it. That's wrong. Anytime you have a discrepancy, you never make an assumption. You go, and you start saying, well, why did he do that? Because you've got to take the perspective that this is an all-knowing God. He's not going to just go and switch things up for you. He's not going to go and make little excuses. There's a reason why it says that. And what you're seeing there is a demonstration to show that basically, from my point of view, is saying that the anger of God is Satan doing his thing. You know, you have the right hand of God. The Lord's right hand upholds righteousness. Yeshua went to the right hand of God. Well, guess where his left hand went? That's where the spankings come from. And guess who he sends to do that? That's why Satan's not squashed like a bug. I mean, if Satan was really an enemy of God, if anyone really understands the almighty, all-powerful God, if he's really a problem for God, you could squash him like a bug and he'd be gone. So you have to start from that point and say, why doesn't he do that? And then you have all these scriptures to show you that. You also have Yeshua saying that when he's rebuking the people of Israel, a lot of them that were following him, it says in chapter 8 of John, he says, why are you trying to kill me? You're sons of your father, the devil. He was a murderer from the beginning. Didn't say he became a murderer. It says from the beginning, he was that. Didn't say he was this and then he changed to that. He was a murderer from the beginning. These are factors, and there's many other scriptures I could show. The problem that people have is their perspective on how they see God and how they see Satan. They want to see it as God is love and he wouldn't do all this. No, God does what he wants, when he wants, how he wants. He gives his laws and his rules and everything to help us to understand him so that we can approach him in the right way and we can receive from him and be blessed. But God shows very well, if you're not good with me, I'm the worst thing you could ever want to know. So look at the people of Israel. If you follow my ways and my decrees, then you'll be blessed and you're going in. Then you'll be blessed and you're going out. Whatever you put your hand to, you'll be blessed. You'll be blessed. But if you don't follow it, it goes a lot longer into the punishments. I mean, and it's terrible. And it starts off with one phase, and he says, and I'm not done. I'm going to go and beat you down. I'm going to curse this. I'm going to curse that. And then I'm going to get worse, and I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to bring diseases. I mean, this is God. This is the creator of the universe. And I say this not to bring him down. I say this so that people can understand him better and understand why you need to have the fear of the Lord. While, yes, it is an awe, but it is the word fear. You got to have the respect and understanding that he's the boss, that you don't go to him your way. You go to him on your face saying you're the boss, and then he raises you up. And Yeshua is our gift from God that allows us to approach him and receive the goodness and all that blessing because we are endeavoring to become more like the spirit man, like Yeshua, rather than the flesh man. We're willing to die that. So understanding Satan, and there's so much more to put into that, but that's just some of the things to look at. And again, I urge people to consider the scriptures that I've shown, and there's multiple others I could actually bring up, but look into it yourself and try and find and go to God with it. I'm not here to try and create a new doctrine, but there's so many things that we believe that don't have a proper basis.